Hilchos Shabbos. We're going to begin now the Sefer Zamanim, the third Sefer of the Rambam. Chapter 1. B'Shem Hashem Kolel. B'Rim Hashem, the God of the world. Echalti Disecha Le'elam. I inherited your testimonies forever. Kisasani B'Hema, for they are joy into my heart. Sefer Shlishi was Sefer Zamanim. Hilchos Eser. Hilchos Shabbos, Hilchos Erev, and Hilchos Shvis Aser. Hilchos Shvis Yom Tov, Hilchos Chom Tzamasa, Hilchos Shefer, V'Sukkah Lulav, V'Shkal, Hilchos Shkalim, Hilchos Kiddush HaChiddush, Hilchos Tainus, Hilchos Megillah V'Chalak, Hilchos Shabbos, Yish B'chol Chomish Mitzvahs, Shem Mitzvah Saseh, V'Shalosh Mitzvah Saseh, V'Zal Patan Lish Beis B'Shabbos, Shalasis B'Melacha, Shalanish B'Shabbos, Shalatzis Chutz L'Gvul Shabbos, the Kaddish Shem Shabbos B'Schida, B'Mitzvah Brogam Eda. We're going to explain now in the Prakim the halachas. Aleph, Shvisa B'Shabbos B'Melacha Mitzvah Saseh. Resting from work on the seventh day is a mitzvah aseh. Shnam, like it says, and you shall rest on the seventh day. Whoever performs malacha on this day negates the observance of a positive commandment that also transgresses a negative commandment. Shnam, like it says, do not perform any labor. What are the liabilities incurred by a person who performs malacha? If a person does so willingly, chayiv kares is chayiv kares. If there's edim and warning, niskal, he gets skila. And if he does this by accident, he is chayiv a fixed caution. Chatas kua. Base. Whenever in halacha it says that a person who does this on Shabbos is chayiv, he's chayiv kares. And if there's Edim and Asra, is Chayiv Skila. And if he is a Shegeg, then he's Chayiv Chatas. Now, anytime it says in Allah Potter, he's not Chayiv Karas, or Skila, or Carbon. Also, Lasis, there was B'Shabbos. You're not allowed to do this on Shabbos. We suit him to be safe for him. It's also rabbinically, but who are Chokam and Amlocha, and this was instituted as a safeguard against the labor. A person does this on purpose, he's chayav makas mardas. Anytime it says it's forbidden to do this, so the Rambam now established when it says potter means potter midiraisa, what is chayav midiraisa. And anytime it says it's usher to do this, then he gets makas mardis. Now, anytime it says mutter, that means one is allowed to do this from the outset. When somebody says one who's under no obligation or is not chayiv at all, one does not receive any punishment at all. Hey, it's permissible to perform an act that's permitted on Shabbos, even despite the fact that it's possible, it's not certain that a malacha will come from it, provided that he did not have intent to perform the malacha. Kate said, how so? Person may drag a bed, a chair, a bench on Shabbos, provided he does not intend to gouge out a groove in the earth while dragging them. Therefore, even if he did make a groove in the ground, it doesn't mean anything, for he did not have the kavanah. A person is allowed to walk on grass on Shabbos, as long as he doesn't have intention to remove his hair. Therefore, if he does, it's no consequences. Person is allowed to rub powdered herbs and the like over his hands, provided he does not intend to remove the hair. Therefore, I'm not sure any cheshish. If he does, we're not cheshish. Similarly, it's permissible to perform to enter a narrow opening on Shabbos, even though while causing pieces on the wall to fall. Similarly, with similar repercussions, it's a mutter, provided that one does not have the intent of doing so. If, however, for sure, malacha is going to come from it, even if you didn't have an intention, it's also. It's called the Psikadesha. Kids in house. Irish, it's on a Ladesha, if it's Achik, by a Kodem Chotter Gadesh Basham. As Albish and a Save Megamasi, Larigasa, if about Hive, shall the Redush, Yafsha, Shiata Gadesh Hive, Yishia, Alamavis, Bob Bishwala, you think Kalei. A person eats a chicken head to serve as a toy for a child, and therefore cuts off the chicken's head on Shabbos. Although his ultimate purpose is not merely to shech the chicken, he is chayiv. It's obvious that it's impossible for the head of a living being to be cut off, and for that being to survive. Instead, the chicken's death came about because of this activity. Therefore, he is chayiv. Same applies to other things. Anyone who performs forbidden labor, even if he had no need for the actual labor he performed, he is chayiv for this deed. Person who extinguished a lamp because he needed to save the oil, or the wick, in order that it should not be lost, or it shouldn't burn, or extinguished the lamp even though he did not do so for the usual purpose of extinguishing the candle, because extinguishing is a malacha, right? And you had intention to extinguish. Even if you didn't need to go for the kibbutz, and not to extinguish, or for the sun, or for the oil, or for the earthenware, or for the psilar as a chayiv. Similarly, a person who moves a thorn 4 amas in Rosh Hashanah, or extinguishes a coal so that many people will not be injured, is chayiv. Although the usual purpose served by extinguishing the coal or removing the thorn is not important to him, and his kavanah is merely to prevent injury, is chayiv. The same applies in other similar stories. Person who performs malacha, a forbidden malacha, but instead intends to perform a forbidden malacha, but instead causes the performance of another forbidden labor for which he has no kavanah, he's not chayav because his intent was not carried out. Person threw a stone or shot an arrow or at a friend or at an animal with the kavanah of slaying them. Should the object that he propelled uproot a tree in its progress and not kill the intended victim, he is free of liability. It's a kalvachimer. How much more so if he intended to do something less and didn't work. Again, for example, he had a kavanah to throw it in the karmelis, and it went to the Hashanah. Person had in mind to do a permissible thing, but did something else. For example, she had intention to cut off the talash of a mechuber, but instead he detached the mechuber. He is chayiv, and a chayiv, I'm sorry. Test. Look at the now, if a person had in mind, let's say, to pick black figs and he picked white figs, and let's say he wanted to take figs and then grapes and he did the opposite, he's put he went ahead and he picked whatever he intended. Since he didn't do it to the Seder, he's putter because the Teda had in mind only for purpose of label that the Torah forbid. A person had 2 candles before him, and both of them were either burning or extinguished, and he desired to kindle or extinguish one, but instead he kindled and extinguished the other. He is chayav for he performed the forbidden labor that he intended to perform. It's like he wanted to pick this fig, but picked another one. Because he intended to do what he performed. He is, however, freed if there were 2 candles before a person, one lit and one was extinguished. A person intended to kindle the one that was extinguished first and to extinguish the second candle afterwards. Nevertheless, the order of his actions became reversed, and instead he extinguished the candle first and kindled the second one afterwards. Whoever performs the malacha like casually, whenever a person intended to perform a forbidden labor and performed it more effectively, he is chayiv. If a person had an intention to carry a burden suspended behind him and the fun of, and he went in front of him. So he's chayiv. Why? Shar and established shmita prusa. He intended to do a lesser shmita, and also shmita bul, and he made a bigger one. It's the fun of a bul and a potter. But if he intended to carry a burden suspended before him, and he did it backwards, it's potter. Shar and established shmita bul, but it's shmita prusa because he intended to protect it in a more effective manner, and it was ultimately protected in a less effective manner. Yud Gimel. The Chagam B'Siddur Yishtan Al Master B'Msari V'Chaluk B'Mar Shabbat Zeh Master Shdak L'Hitziv Derech Hazez the fundamental Shabbat Achirav Chayiv Shkendak Elias Chazer. Person who transforms an article from one domain to another is Chayiv. He was wearing a belt and he placed a burden that is commonly transferred in this manner between his body and his garments. Whether the burden hung in front of him or was shifted behind him, he is Chayiv since it's likely to shift positions. Whoever, whenever a person desired to perform a labor on the Shabbos, began the performance of that labor and performed an account of work, even though he did not complete the task that he desired to perform. If a person had a mind to write a geras or a star, we don't say you have to write the whole thing, or the entire letter. Once Mashif there's the AC once you write to this is and once you do Shnei Chut, Chayav Afbish the Kavanos the Hashtam Begel Hayavas this year, since he did the Shir Kavanos Chayav Chenkel Yitzmazah. Komalach Shagaf the Achalas is Lavad the Vasas Shnai B'Shutofis, Ben Shasa Zem Mitzasi, Ben Shaka Zachivs Mershos Zemanich, Hashem Mershos Achers, Ben Shasa is Shneim Kacham at Chilam Atsev, Ben Shasa Shneim Bekulmas, Ukasu is Aksu Kicker Right, Mershos Mershos are Elo Pturin. Whenever you have two people that do the Melacha with Shutfis, you are going to be Pater. If let's say both can't pick it up together by themselves and they need to and then Shneim are going to be Chayav if you share Echad L'Shneim. Now, if, let's say, one could take it out, the other guy can't take it out, and they take it out together, the person who's able to do it by himself is chayiv, and the shin is Messiah. Oh, Messiah is in a chayiv. The person who's a Messiah is not chayiv. Whenever a person is destructive, it's pater ketzan herself. Person who injures a friend or an animal with a destructive intent. A person who dug a pit solely because he intended the earth inside is considered to have makalkos potter. The kavanah, since the kavanah is the ruins, is potter. But if a person carries a destructive activity for the sake of the tikkun is chayiv. Ketzar shesasrikte livneis kemei shemachik de lichtiv biwakim shemachik de shakavar gumak de livneis beseder cities of chayiv. Person who demolishes a structure in order to build another in its place, or one who erases for the sake of writing something in the place of the eraser, or one who dug a pit in order to place the foundation of a structure, is chayiv. The minimum measure of the destructive activity is for which he is liable is equal to that of the corresponding positive activity. Anybody who does malach on Shabbos, whether Rashigur or Safe, he's it, Potter, Ashiyasa, Shamlach, Kulam, and Tchilamat, Seb, and he has to do the whole thing on purpose. Vakach Yachayev Kars, Vimio, Edim, Asano, is Chayev, Skila, Ishiyasa, Shamlach, Kulam, Bishkog, and Tchilamat, Seb, Vakach Yachayev, Kuvu, or one is Chayev to Chatas, when one performs the entire minimum measure of forbidden labor untouched from the beginning to the end. Hilchos Shabbat Perek 2, Perek base. Aleph, the Chuya he Eitzel Shabbos, Eitzel Sakonis, the Fajrs, Kishar, Kol HaMitzvahs. The halachas of Shabbos are suspended in the face of danger, as are the obligation of other mitzvahs. The figure, therefore, when you have a person who's sick, and it's a sakana, everything that is necessary for the benefit of a sick person, we do. Suffix should start the challah of a Shabbos, suffix in its whether it's a suffix or not. Made for the reef of the challah of a Shabbos. And if tzarech mechallah not so Shabbos, suffix the first day of Shabbos. The same would hold true when doctors say that one doctor says we should violate Shabbos, and the other says not. We take the chance. Bezamdu b'yem Shabbos should tzarech lekach l'shveni yomim. Einim not about the erev tishlei the challah of shtei Shabbosis. Maschil mayim shu Shabbos mechallah afilu mei Shabbosis kozman should tzarech liyish b'sefik sakon suffix sakon mechallah. When doctors on the Shabbos that determine that on the Shabbos that a person needs a treatment to be administered for 8 days, we don't say that let's wait and push it off till after Shabbos, so only to be mechal one Shabbos instead of 2. Rather, we don't take chances. We could be mechal many Shabbosim, whether it's a suffix or not. The madlikin is a ner, mechabin mefana is a ner, shaitan le, ve'ifin v'ashlan mechamin le, mechamin bin hashkes bin architz kufay. As well, we light candles on his behalf and extinguish on his behalf. We wash, we slaughter on his behalf, bake and cook on his behalf, and water heated for him, whether it's a drink or used for bathing. General principle for a person who is dangerously ill is that a Shabbos should be considered as a weekday regarding all his needs. You don't do this through goyim or through ktanim, not through women either, or servants. So the Shabbos should not be like light in their eyes. The daily chachamim just should be done through the daily. Great soldiers, sages. You're not allowed to wait to be mechal Shabbos when it comes to sakana v'chelo. Shem, like it says, which a person shall perform to live through them. And not die through them. The teachers teaches us that the Torah did not bring vengeance to the world, but rather bring mercy. That because who say that it's Hilchos Shabbos, that's also the Torah says, the Navi says, I gave them harmful laws and judgment through which they cannot live. Person's eye are ailing when he has a secretion from either one or both of them, when tears flow for them due to the great pain, when blood flows from them, or when they are affected by fever or by the other affliction or the like. Consider amongst those individuals who are dangerously ill. The Shabbos may be violated on his behalf, and anything necessary for this treatment may be performed for him. When a similarly, a person has a wound in his body cavity from his lips inwards, whether in his mouth or digestive organs or his liver or spleen, or any of the other organs in his body, is considered to be dangerously ill and does not require physician's assessment. His ailment is serious, and we should violate the Shabbos laws on his behalf immediately without waiting for his assessment. A wound on the back or of the hand or on the back of the foot is considered equivalent to a wound in the body cavity. It doesn't require a doctor's assessment of his condition for us to violate the Shabbos laws on his behalf. It doesn't a wound on the back, like we said, or on the hand or on the foot is considered equivalent to a wound in the body cavity. It does not require a physician's assessment. The fever that causes the flesh to wince is considered equivalent to a wound in the body cavity, and we should violate the Shabbos. Similarly, we should violate the Shabbos laws whenever a physician assesses an ailment of dangerous, even when it affects only the exterior of the skin. When a person swallows a leech, water may be heated for him on the Shabbos, or any medical treatment that is necessary may be administered, since his life danger. When a person is bitten by a rabbit or a dog or a poisonous snake or other reptile, any medical treatment to save him may be administered, even when there is merely a question of whether or not the bite can cause death. When doctors assess that a sick person required a fig and 10 people ran and brought him 10 figs at once, they are pater. even if they bring one after another, even if he gets healthy from the first one, it's not a problem. They all brought it with a license. The sick person required 2 figs, and 2 figs could be found only on 2 separate stems, while 3 figs were found on another stem. You should remove the stem that has 3 figs, even though only 2 are required. Preferable to cut only 1 stem and not 2 stems, as it's not to increase the performance of the forbidden labor gleaning. The same applies to all situations. When a food is cooked for a sick person on the Shabbos and the sick person leaves some over after eating, a healthy person is forbidden to eat the remainder. Maybe they'll add food for him. The animal is shechted for a sick person on Shabbos. When an animal is shechted for a sick person, it's permissible for a healthy person to partake of uncooked food. A decree was not enacted because there's no possibility for an additional activity being performed for a healthy person. The same applies to all situations. If it's not dangerously ill, then a goy can do it. We tell the goy to do it, to cook for him, to bake for him. Also, we can treat the eye, even though it's not sakana. Even the things which are not the malachi could do it, they should do it. And for this reason, it's permitted to perform. For example, one may lift the tenders of the ear, lift the cartilage around the heart, restore broken bones other places, or performed other activities of the like. When a woman process of childbirth squats to give birth, her life is considered. A midwife may be called for a distant place, and the umbilical cord may be cut or untied. She required a light when she cries because of the labor pains. You can light as even if she's blind, you could do this. If she needs the oil, we bring her. It's whatever she needs. If a friend should bring a utensil tied to her hair, if it's not possible, then we bring the ordinary manner. You're not allowed to help a goy give birth on Shabbos, even if payment is offered. We do not worry about the possibilities of ill feelings being aroused. This applies there if when there is no violation of Shabbos involved. We are commanded to secure their well-being. Basically called cirque. When a woman in childbirth, the flow of blood until the birth, after the birth for 3 days, the Shabbos may be violated. Whether she says she needs it, whether or not. From 3 to 7, if she says she doesn't need it, if she keeps quiet, if she says she needs it, then from 7 to 30 days, and has to be through going. Yod Dalet. A fire may be kindled for a woman after she has given birth, even in the summer, since cold is very difficult for a woman to bear after childbirth in the cold regions. A fire should not be kindled for other sick people to warm themselves. If a person let blood and became chilled, a fire may be kindled for him even in the summer. You're allowed to wash herbs, etc., and all for Shabbos. A baby may be washed before circumcision, after circumcision, on the 3rd day after circumcision with the water that is heated, on the Shabbos because of the danger with him. Aisha Shriyoshva Lamash Barmesim Vian Sakin Shabbos Fil Der Rosh Hashanah Vakernes Kresam Etzinis Avlad Shami Motzachad Shesov Lavashes Degos Shabbos Afil Azeh Shein Chaskasa. When a woman dies on labor, you're allowed to cut it open even if it's a suffix with suffix Lavashes Degos Shabbos. Tezayin I'm Fakin because Nefesh B'Shabbos V'Yitzar Little Rishus B'Shabbos. All activities necessary to save a life on Shabbos. There's no necessary. Therefore, you're allowed to. The more zealous a person is, the better it is. You see a child going to the Yam Peres, you can have a Mitzuda. You can spread it out a net and host him. Although one catches fish, if you see a child, or you heard that child is drowning in the sea, and you took a net out and only fish came, if you haven't wanted to take out dogim and both the dogim and the tinnik came, since he lifted up with the child together with the fish, he's not held liable even if he did not hear the child has fallen. If a child fell into a pit, the person may dislodge a clod of earth and lift the child up, even though he creates a step when he dislodges. If a door was locked when a child inside, a person may break the door down and take the child out, even though he chops it into pieces of wood which are appropriate for the use of the work. Last, the child becomes frightened and die. You don't have to ask for Bezdin. When an avalanche has fallen and there's a doubt whether or not the person is there, we clear it. If the person was discovered to be alive, it was crushed by the fallen debris to the extent that it's impossible that he will recover, and be cleared out, the person taken out to enable him to live however long. In the process of filling the debris, they reached the nose and they saw that the person is not breathing, he should be left there because he already died. If you check the Yanim and they're died, you don't say the bottom one died. It's possible that the bottom one is still alive. Even if there's one yid there, we take it away. Even should one of the individuals leave and enter another courtyard and the courtyard collapsed upon him, one should remove the debris. Perhaps the person who departed was a yid, all those who remain are goyim. And you do me who in love. In can Yisrael will call Pirish Mahan, Shemahach Larasinin, Becheskes, Pirish Mahan, Reva Yisraf, Pishanekru, Kulam, Pirish Mahan, Bechasarkers, or Nafla Mapes Mifak. When they all left this courtyard to go to another courtyard, and as they were proceeding, one of them was identities unknown, departed and entered the third courtyard and was covered by the avalanche. The debris should not be removed from him. Since they left their original place, the presence of a Yid is not accepted as established fact. Hence, we assume that anyone who separated from this group as proceeding was part of the majority. Accordingly, if the majority was Jewish, even a person separated from them who entered another courtyard after they left their original place should be covered by an avalanche. We should remove the avalanche. While in Midbar, if you're going in the desert, you don't know when Shabbos is. You count 6 days, and then on the 7th day you make kiddush and work with Berchsiyim. You're allowed to work as much as you need in order that you shouldn't die. You can't do more because maybe it's Shabbos. Shushmini Yitzyosik, Hamishos Yitzyosik, this was a minion hires a motel asses, Malach Besayim, Shadar Radish, Layotsam, Mishar Rashad, Sharium, Kutsmiyim, is Parnasabavad. If they come as well, Shatsara, Yoris is so involved, all this came on when Goyim lay siege against the Jewish city. If their intent was financial, then in Machal loves the Shabbos, Venice, and then Mamlacha. We are Smuchalas, Far, Fule, Bal, Aliski, Tevin, Vakash, against Alim, Bachlizain, Machal loves Shabbos. However, the cities located near the border march against them with weapons and wage war against them, even when they are demanding hay or straw. It's a lamb, Holy Zion, Machalos, Shabbos, Mitzvah, Kol Yisrael, Shechem, let's say, Lazar, Lachem, Shemotza, Latzim, Yad, Come, Mazos, Shabbos. Aslam, so I'm but the Shabbos, you can't wait, much Shabbos, Silo, Sacher, Achayan, Mutala, and Lasa, with the Zion, Shalem, came Shabbos, the Shalei, Lachshila, and Lasa, love it. Chayan, Besuna, Matravas, Beyam, Irish, Karkam, and now Mitzvah, Lasas, Shabbos, Latzim, Kol Yam, Dover, Shiach, Latzile. Seeking a city or a city is surrounded by a flooding river, it's a mitzvah to go on the Shabbos and use every possible means to say that I feel Yochid, under the Kamazos, Emde, Nochash, Dev, Shuredev, after the Argan Mitzvah, let's see, like, feel about sea is becoming Malachas B'Shabbos, or feel it's happening, please, even to make weapons, let's see, is mutter. Second, Alem, Mischan, and B'Shabbos, Masin, Alem, Azur, Desam, Ve'en, Mischanim, Zekin, Aldover, B'Shabbos. We should cry out on Shabbos and the wrath, make supplications and sound the trumpets to summon help for them. We should not cry out to Hashem or make supplications because it will plague on Shabbos. Turn all your say to Chama, Sol, Shlish, Yom, Kedem, Shabbos, Reis, Nimai, Muhammad, Cholim, Yem, B'Shabbos, Shikev, Shneis, Vafilu, Bishum, Chamas, Rosh, Shua, Lamdo, Harita, Vafilu, B'Shabbos, Insert, Lemmer, Chamas, Mitzvah, the Kabash, Shishur, Don, Yericha, Ela, B'Shabbos. We should not lay siege to Goyish cities at least 3 days before Shabbos. We may wage war with them on any day, even on Shabbos, until we conquer the city, even if the war is voluntary in nature. Since you have subjugated as teaching, once you wage war, even on Shabbos, surely, but applies with regards to a war that we are obligated to wage. And see on Shabbos that Yerichai, that Yeshua conquered Yerichai.